This hike takes you across some of the most striking ridge lines in the northern Sahyadri, including the Phani Dongar, Bhaskargad Fort, and the mountain of Utwad. Before I get into today's video, I need to set some context. I went on a 2000-kilometer expedition to hike along the length of the Sahyadri mountain range. Over 70 days, I crossed beautiful ridges, magical forests, epic valleys, historical forts, and remote villages. For generations, hikers have explored this landscape, yet no single route connected the entire mountain range. So I set out to change that and created the Epic Sahyadri Trail. Hiking 2000 kilometers was actually the easier part. After the expedition, my team and I at HikeX spent 2000 hours documenting everything, designing the most logical route through the landscape, creating 3D map animations, and correcting GPX tracks. We mapped the trail digitally and wrote detailed trail documentation. All this work is made possible with the help of our incredible partners who believed in our vision of creating India's first long-distance trail and stood behind the effort to transform that vision into a living national asset. With their support, we have created this walkthrough series to make the trail easier to understand so that you can experience this incredible landscape with the right information, knowledge, and confidence. Now, Epic Sahyadri Trail or EST is entirely located in the state of Maharashtra, running north to south through the Sahyadri mountain range. It is divided into 11 sections, which are further divided into smaller stages so that you can hike the entire trail one stage at a time. Today's route lies in the North Vaitarna section, which has a total of 4 stages. In this video, we'll understand stage 3 of the Epic Sahyadri Trail. I'll break down whether this stage is right for you or not, followed by a complete route walkthrough covering topography, navigation tips, hazards, risk assessment, exit options, and how to get there. Let's get started. Before I explain the route, let's discuss if this route is suitable at your skill level or not. The terrain on this stage is a real mix of open plateau, forest, steep slopes, rock-cut steps, scree on the descent of Phani Dongar. Most of the day is a ridge walk, so navigation stays simple except in the forest sections and across the plateau, where tall grass hides the trail and offline maps become essential. The skills you actually need before walking this stage are offline navigation and confident handling of steep, slippery slopes. These are the basics every hiker should own before stepping into terrain like this. The trail out of Taake Harsh towards Sinhasan Dongar is well used. In the morning hours, you cross paths with locals collecting firewood. Now, in Marathi, a single piece of firewood is called fati, and once a few logs are bundled together for carrying on the head, that bundle is called sarpan. The trail contours along the west-facing slopes of Sinhasan Dongar. Sinhasan meaning throne, Dongar meaning hill or mountain. There is good shade through this section, but the path keeps bending around blind turns. Make your presence felt as you walk through here in early morning. A simple call out, a clap, even a hump, anything that gives the trail ahead a heads up that you're coming. The trail eventually opens up at the saddle between Harihar and Sinhasan Dongar. From here, you see the south-facing rock face of Harihar, which looks completely different from the regular view. The trail then contours along and connects back to a cluster of eateries on the ridgeline. Now, here is a small but important detail. The locals from Harshewadi and Nirgudpada open these eateries only on weekends, when most tourists turn up. So if you're walking on a weekend, refill your water here. On a weekday, the shutters stay down. The trail now contours west onto an open plateau. Expect tall grass that fully hides the line of the path. The way you keep your bearings here is by spotting white arrow markers painted on stones along the route. The marked line contours around the base of Phani Dongar, and you could just stay on this base contour. But on the EST, the route actually climbs Phani Dongar. The ascent is steep, with a small rock patch right before the top. Once you're on the top, the summit is a rocky knob, an outcrop standing apart from the rest of the ridge. The name Fani comes from Fani, a Sanskrit Marathi term for a serpent's hood. And that is exactly what this hill looks like from the Harihar side, a pointed, cobra like projection rising off the ridgeline. Like Dangya Pinnacle, Phani Dongar carries a strong visual identity that you can pick out from kilometers away. The descent from Phani Dongar towards the west is the trickiest part of the entire day. You're dealing with three things stacked on top of each other: a steep gradient, a constant layer of tiny rolling stones and loose scree underfoot, and one small rock patch you have to downclimb. This single section eats up a lot of time, and trekking poles here are not optional, they are mandatory. The trail itself is thin, but because you are on a higher ground, you can scan ahead and spot the line clearly from above. Now, here is the operational reality of scree like this. The hazard is the loose rolling stones on a steep slope. The condition that creates this is a sustained gradient where the soil never settles and gravity keeps the surface unstable. What makes it worse is the natural human reflex to lean back away from the slope when you feel yourself slipping. This shifts your weight off your feet and turns a slip into a slide. The fix is to stay leaned slightly into the slope. Plant your poles below you on every step. Take small, deliberate steps, and on the rock patch, face the rock and down climb. But do not try to walk it down upright. If you have no experience handling steep, slippery scree, skip Phani Dongar and stick to the base contour north of it. And right at the base of Phani Dongar, the question that goes through every hiker's head is, do I really need to go up there if there is a contour route right here? This is where I want to introduce a concept called the summit fever. Summit fever is the mental compulsion to reach the top of a peak or a feature despite knowing the terrain, the weather, the skills, or conditions that make it unwise. In the Sahyadri, this matters more than people realize. Getting up to a summit is often the optional part. It is the descent that carries the real consequences. Steeper gradients on the other side, scree you cannot read from above, fading light, tired legs. If a summit does not fit your skill level on the day, contouring around it is not quitting. It is reading the mountain correctly. Phani Dongar is the perfect classroom for this lesson. Once the descent from Phani Dongar finally ends, keep your orientation pointed west. Multiple cattle trails are branching north and south through here, and they will pull you offline if you're not paying attention. The trail eventually drops onto a small road saddle. This is a wayside shrine, a few rocks marked with sindoor, and the road itself sees almost zero traffic. The trail now starts climbing gradually towards Bhaskargad. The initial climb cuts through thick forest before opening up into meadows along the ridgeline that lead you to the base of the Bhaskargad rock face. The trail then contours along the base of the rock face until you reach a set of rock cut steps that take you up to the top of Bhaskargad. On both sides of these steps, gravel walls rise about 10 to 12 feet high. These are the old fort ramparts. The upper section of the ramparts have been heavily demolished over time, and the debris from the demolition has fallen onto the steps themselves. So, a few of the steps are buried under loose rubble. Watch your footing on these stones. On top, you will find stone cut water cisterns, but the water in them is not portable. Do not refill from these. The exit from Bhaskargad is back through the same rock cut steps you came up. Once you're back at the base, the trail then turns south and contours along the base of the west face of Bhaskargad. This brings you to a huge cave, and this cave is genuinely useful. It is a strong rain shelter and an ideal night shelter if you have ever get caught out here. Towards the back end of the cave, there is a shivling carved into the base of the rock. The cave can comfortably accommodate around 10 people. There is also one place inside the cave where water keeps dripping from the rock, a very small flow, drop by drop, but it is there. A hard rule for this stage is on hydration. There is no water on this trail once you leave Taake Harsh until you reach Sirsonpada. Carry a minimum of 3 liters. Do not underestimate this number, especially in the dry months of January and February. Until now in this video, did you notice something? Many people think of hiking as just a physical activity. In reality, it's also a skill based activity. Can you choose a trek that's right for your experience level? Can you plan it, navigate it, and adapt when things don't go according to plan? Can you move safely and efficiently through unfamiliar terrain? These skills are the foundation of safe and confident hiking. That's exactly why we created the hiking field course. It's a 7-day immersive outdoor program where participants learn 16 essential hiking skills through hands on field training in real outdoor environments. This course is for beginners interested in hiking as well as for hikers who want to take on bigger and more challenging adventures. Since 2021, hundreds of participants from different age groups, professions, and fitness levels have completed the course and gone on to explore the outdoors with greater confidence. The hiking field course brings together skills that most hikers learn one at a time into one single structured learning experience. Learning these skills opens the door to trails and experiences that would otherwise remain out of reach. If you'd like to learn more, you'll find details on the link below. Now, let's get back to the trail. So far, you have been moving along the high ground, but now the trail drops you into Konkan. Before we move forward, three terms make this whole landscape easier to read: Desh, Konkan, and Ghatwat. Desh is the high plateau and crestline of the Sahyadri, where you find the forts, the upland villages, the plateaus, the forests, the rivers, the temples, the open ridges. Konkan is the lowland that sits below the Ghats, flatter land, rivers, farms, forests, and eventually the coast. People have lived on both sides of these mountains for generations, and they needed ways to stay connected between the two. That is where the ghatwats come in. A ghatwat is the trail route that links the Desh above to the Konkan below. In Marathi, Vat means route. These old paths form a major part of the 2000-kilometer Epic Sahyadri Trail because they are the routes local people have used for generations. Coming back to the route, the trail now continues south for about half a kilometer and then turns swiftly west to descend towards Konkan. This thin descent line is called the Mulichi Daar. Daar in Marathi means ridge line. There is no water on this section because ridge lines act as watersheds. The small hamlet at the base is called Sirsonpada, and this is where you refill. Mulichi Daar itself is a ghatwat. It is a route that connects the people who once lived around Bhaskargad fort with the village of Sirsonpada below. Now, before we keep moving, it is worth knowing about the Dhangars. Just like Kashmir is associated with Bakarwals and Himachal with the Gaddis, the Sahyadri is also closely linked with the Dhangars. The Dhangars are the traditional shepherds of this region. A shepherd is a person, or in this case, a community whose life revolves around raising, protecting, and moving livestock, mostly sheep and goats, in search of grazing land and water. For generations, Dhangars have moved through these mountains with their animals, and that is what makes them an inseparable part of the Sahyadri landscape and culture. There are thousands of Dhangarwadis spread across the Sahyadri. Wadi means a small settlement or hamlet, so a Dhangarwadi is a small, often isolated dwelling cluster connected to the Dhangar community, usually on a hillside or a remote plateau, reached by trails rather than road. These are also the people who still actively use these trails because they keep moving their animals between grazing areas and water sources. That makes Dhangars one of the best sources of current trail information that you can find. Route conditions for today, water availability for today, where is the Karvi overgrown, and which paths are still being walked. Someone living down in the village may know the area in general. The Dhangars walking these routes weekly know it as it is right now. And the fact that they keep using these trails is one of the main reasons many of these routes still exist on the ground at all. Through the Epic Sahyadri Trail, we are trying to map and preserve these paths because the next generation may move into other livelihoods. Coming back to the walkthrough now, the trail turns south and connects to a small, isolated Dhangarwadi just north of the Khoch Reservoir. There is a drinking water source close to this Dhangarwadi, sitting in what looks like a dry riverbed. The flow is small, but it is perennial. A simple tip: if you're ever in doubt about which water source is safe or current, ask the locals here. They will always confirm. The first time I walked along the west bank of the Khoch Reservoir, I was trying to figure out the route up to Belkhanda Dhar, and the line was not obvious from where I was standing. This is where I met what I call a trail angel. A local man who was on his way home to Khoch changed course and walked with me instead. Now you imagine, for the next 2 hours, he guided me on the trail and just kept me company while we walked. On the Epic Sahyadri Trail, a trail angel is someone who unexpectedly helps you with route guidance, safety, water, shelter, transport, food, or simply their presence without obligation and often at personal inconvenience to them. You will meet them at the most useful moments on this trail, and the best thing you can do is accept the help, ask the name, and remember them. From the Khoch Reservoir area, you have two options to climb up to the crest line. The Bhatkala Daar ghatwaat is the more commonly used one. The ridgeline approach is not steep, with just one rock patch along the way. After the rock patch, the route contours through Karvi plants all the way up to the saddle between Utwad and Bhaskargad, which is called the Khoch Khind. From here, the trail continues south, crosses the Bhaskargad cave once again, and then drops down towards a saddle called the Govkyachi Khand. This saddle is what connects you to the village of Dahaliwali, which is where this stage ends. Now, before we move forward, let's talk about the bailout points on this trail. There are two exits on this stage, one mapped and one unmapped. The mapped exit is the road saddle the trail crosses between Phani Dongar and Bhaskargad. If something goes wrong in that first half of the day, this is your bailout. The unmapped exit is back at the saddle between Harihar and Sinhasan Dongar. That one drops down to the village of Jharwad Khurd. It is not on the official map, so treat it as a backup that needs local confirmation before you commit to it. There is one side trail on this stage to Utwad, the highest mountain of the Trimbak mountain range. The split heads north from the Khoch Khind and brings you to the base of a rock face after a walk through more Karvi plants. Back in 2024, when I did Utwad as part of a community hike, I noticed something I had not expected. Local women in saris were climbing up this rock face barefoot. There was a big group of villagers heading up to a shrine at the top, and they had all left their footwear at the base of the rock face. When I saw how they were moving, I removed my shoes too, and the rock climb became noticeably easier. Now, I know what you're wondering. Is this rock patch even worth doing? Here's the honest answer. If you're a beginner, skip Utwad. If you're an experienced hiker and you decide to climb it, please do not leave your shoes at the base of the rock face as the villagers do. The reason is simple. The highest point on Utwad is still around 500 meters away after you finish the rock climb, and walking that distance barefoot across the plateau is going to be uncomfortable. So carry your shoes up, wear them on the plateau, and climb back down the rock face the same way you came. The out and back ends at the Khoch Khind. Every stage of the Epic Sahyadri Trail starts and ends in a village. That's not a coincidence. It's how the trail is designed. Sleeping in temples, schools, and on someone's porch is common on the EST. One tip that you should know is the bus hike bus system. Here's how it works. On day one, take a state transport bus, also called the ST bus, and reach your start village by evening. Stay there for the night. The next morning, start early. Hike the stage during the day. Reach the next village by evening. Now you have two choices. If you want to exit, stay the night and catch the first morning bus out of the village. If you want to continue, stay the night and continue your hike the following morning. That's the system. No car, no expensive taxi, no complicated planning. Just move one village at a time. And the best part, it works across most of the EST because almost all the villages have a daily state transport bus. And if there is no bus or the timing does not work, hitchhiking is also common along the Epic Sahyadri Trail route. Now, the EST runs from June through January, and on this stage, these 8 months are not one season. June through September is monsoon, and this stage is one to avoid in this window. Surfaces of Bhaskargad and the rock cut steps go slippery. The old fort walls become unreliable, and the Karvi grows thick enough to cover the trail in long stretches. On the open plateau, whiteouts roll in fast and trigger severe plateau drift. Plateau drift is the moment visibility collapses. Hikers unknowingly drift away from the intended line while still feeling oriented because there are no landmarks left to correct against because of the thick clouds. October through January is the opposite picture. The rain stops, the grass turns brown, the trail firms up underfoot, the rock surfaces give you good grip, and the long views open out across the range. What you lose in green season landscape, you gain in route accessibility, visibility, and safety. In these months, your single biggest job is staying hydrated. Now, documenting a trail is never a one time effort. Every season brings new observations from the field. Access changes, conditions shift, and routes are remapped. If you're planning to hike this stage or take on the entire EST, here are a few resources to help you out. For the latest route updates, access information, and stage wise documentation, visit the HikeX website. You can download the verified GPX tracks for free to study the trail at home and later use it to navigate offline. We have also put together gear recommendations to help you avoid costly mistakes and focus on what actually matters. And if you'd like to go deeper, the EST guidebook covers a lot more details that will enrich your hiking experience. You can also join the HikeX community to connect with other hikers, share knowledge, and support our efforts to map, document, and improve the hiking infrastructure across India. And finally, since satellite communication devices are not permitted in India, we have created Auto SOS. It can automatically notify your emergency contacts if you don't return on time from your adventure. It is available for free. You'll find links to all of these resources in the description below. I've shared everything I've learned to help you plan, prepare, and hike the trail. Now it's your turn to put all this knowledge into practice and experience the incredible landscapes waiting for you. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, so share them with your friends and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep creating more videos like this to help you hike better and safer.